Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Nicolas Refn's Bleeder in 1999. Now this is another Refn film, for those of you who don't know who he is, he's directed Drive, Bronson, Neon Demon, but as I've said before in my Pusher review, he's very under the radar, very, obscure, and, he does make some obscure films, but, he's a great filmmaker when he's at his best. And Pusher I thought was a good film. I thought Pusher was a good film. I think one of the Pusher films is a great film, which I'll get to. And yes, this is his second film, feature film, and I was really looking forward to this one. As I heard, it explored, cinephilia and stuff, and passion for cinema and stuff. And I saw, some images, of course, and it's kind of in this video store, some of the images, so it really intrigued me, because there's nothing I like more or love more than films. And most films don't really, they don't really mention films for prolonged conversations. There's some references throughout, in films, but for a film to actually focus on films in quite a lot of the film, it's quite unique. So I was really looking forward to it. It's not acclaimed, it's got a 6.8 on IMDb. And there's not much votes, but Rotten Tomatoes, it's not even got a score, although I think 2 of the reviews are rotten, and 1 is fresh, so it would be negative anyway. So yeah, and rankings of Refn films, there's not much that put it, in the better half, not much people think, too much of it. And I thought, I could go into this film and maybe discover a lost gem, like in a video store, which is, a lot of the film is saying, you're going through a video store, and then you find a film that, discover that it's not well known, and it turns out to be really great. This is that type of film, I can say now after watching it. It was my last Refn film that, I hadn't seen, second film, and I really think this is a great film. It's stunning. It's far better than Pusher, and I think, he completely, grew as a filmmaker between these 2 films. He would have some dips after this, but Bleeder is a great film. So Mads Mikkelsen once again, of course. He plays Lenny, and you've got Kim Bodnia, who plays Leo. This is kind of like the DVDs, like the Bodnia double pack, which is quite funny. The double bill, and he's in both of them. And he's much better in this than I criticised a little bit him in Pusher. His character, a bit bland, and the second half he was the main character, protagonist, and his performance wasn't great in that. It was okay. In this film, it starts off, you think he might be the same sort of thing. As the film goes on, he gives a great performance, and his character once again. As well, other characters, Kit Ho, played by Zlatko Buric. You've got Liv Corfixen, who plays Lee. I believe she's Refn's wife, and she appeared in a couple of his early films. You've got Louise as well, the character of Louise, played by Levino, Jensen. And the 4 characters really are the main ones. You could say the 4 men are the ones I've mentioned really. And a lot of the film is them kind of watching films together, and just hanging out and stuff. And it's just really a classical experience, nostalgic. It really is really warm and stuff. Them scenes especially. But you've got once again great writing from Refn, even stronger than Pusher 1. I said some of the characters in Pusher 1 are really well written. All of the characters I think in this film are written, in a absolutely stunning way. They're all fleshed out. And the performances match that, but they're all fleshed out and they're all unique in their own way. And as well, it kind of intertwines the story and stuff, and it has a ripple effect, throughout the film, especially the last act. All the dynamics between the groups and stuff, culminates into something very, very moving. But yes, you've got this intro as well, it shows the feet of the characters, the main characters, and it kind of shows the rest of them, and it has different music for each one. I thought that was a really, really great intro, very unique, a bit Hitchcockian with the feet and stuff, but no, definitely an original opening in this sense, and just draws you in straight away to this, unique film and Refn style. and you know, the flaws that I had of Pusher One, you know, the editing and all that sort of stuff, and the camera work, and you know, a weaker second act, completely gone in this film. Really, this film has very little flaws. The editing though, there is a transition effect that he does, and it's this cheap red effect, and it kind of fades into the next scene. I didn't like that. There was also one case where there was one scene where it was very jumped, you know, a punch with Kim Bodnia's character. I thought that was a bit cheap as well. But generally, apart from them things, the editing is really, you know, stunning. There's none of this, as well, weak camera work that I found in Pusher One. You know, Refn's style is definitely much more confident here. In terms of the characters and how he handles it, and you know, his themes, and the way the film moves, he handles it really without flaws. Complete confidence. You know, his vision. You know, he achieved his vision here. What he was wanting to do, you could tell. And you know, as I say, all these characters are so likable, and you know, fleshed out characters, human. And Mads Mikkelsen, once again, you know, he plays Lenny. One of the most unique characters I've seen, once again, certainly in modern cinema. He always just, you know, brings something unique, and kind of just funny and quirky. But you know, his acting in this film is stunning. You could say he's the main character along with Kim Bodnia once again. But you know, this time it shifts. You could say, you know, like the first half of and the second half of Pusher One, well, it kind of flips it, you could say. But really, this is an ensemble piece for the most part. Another thing is a great romance in this film, which I didn't expect. Liv Corfixen, you know, Lee, she plays Lee. The romance that she develops with Mads Mikkelsen's character is so good. It's so compelling. Because as well, he loves films. You know, he's the most, you know, of a film buff in this film. You know, his character, and she's kind of one who's, you know, watches films from now and then, but she's not really a fan, and she's more for books, and she kind of you know, questions him throughout the film, and that adds a really interesting dynamic and drama, because you know, there's people like that yeah, I get annoyed at when they say that to me stuff. So you can kind of relate to Mads Mikkelsen's character, but then as well, it is a complex relationship. You know, he does, you know, feel loads for her and stuff. So very complex, but you know, a great romance. Really a stunning romance, and the way it culminates is really, really just perfect. I could not flaw that. You've also got Rikke, Louise Andersson, who plays Louise. She's kind of Kim Bodnia's, you know, Leo's partner, and she's pregnant in the film, and her brother is actually Louis, who's one of their friends. You know, one of the four, the four guys. So it's really interesting. You know, I won't ruin it, but there's some really hard hitting stuff, and you know, things develop in the second act, which really you know, flips the film and adds something really unexpected to the film. And you know, that final act is really, really just shocking. Some of the stuff that happens is really powerful. You know, Refn is in full control of this film. You know, and the way it culminates is really quite perfect. One of his best final acts, I'd say, definitely. And you know, as I say, the characters are also great, flawless really. The writing, the performances, and you know, it explores, you know, you know, as I said, cinephilia in two different sides, and there's also humour in it though. It's not like a full-on, you've got a character who's hating on films. It's done in a humorous way, which I think is absolutely stunning throughout this film. Is the humour, the way that Refn handles his tone. It's humorous, but it never overtakes. It never becomes silly. Mads Mikkelsen, he never becomes annoying or anything. He's just so great in this film. And you know, there is a couple of flaws, as I've said. Some of the editing fades, you know, the fades involved in the editing. There was also one particular scene, really just early on. It's just this one scene, really, you know, involving Leo and his partner. You know, in their flat, their apartment, and yeah, it was a bit flat. You know, when she was on the phone to her mum or something. You know, it could have been better, and it was a bit flat. It wasn't that great, not that interesting really. But you know, the first sort of 20 minutes after that, it really becomes quite flawless. Apart from some of them editing issues, because you know the camera work, the direction, the use of music in this film is far greater, and one of Refn's best sort of uses of music in you know in his films. Especially you know the cover version of John Lennon's Love, which is one of my the original version by Lennon. It's one of my favourite songs. You know, it's among them. Many of his songs are, but the cover version as well, really good. I didn't expect that. You know, I didn't know that was in this film, and the way that that's used is absolutely stunning, perfect. I won't say when it was used, but really every song in this film, you know, every piece, and the classical pieces, you know, perfectly to create the mood and you know to relate to what's going on within them scenes, and you know you've just got the perfect balance really of comedy, drama, and you know it is about exploring you know cinema, love for cinema, and you know people that don't love cinema. And the way he balances that out is really quite flawless. But yes, I cared about all the characters and what was going on here throughout the entire film. The direction was stunning. You know, it's a very low-key film again, it seems, at first, but, you know, he's in such control of the elements here, Refn. You know, as I say, he could have done better editing with the fades, really. And, you know, some of the drama early on, one of the two of them scenes, a bit stale compared to the rest of the film. But actually, you know, that storyline with Louise and Leo, you know, the way that develops in the second half, and certainly the final act, does not disappoint, and you know, that is absolutely stunning, the way that culminates. Very powerful, very powerful stuff, and the way Refn's able to shift you know, who you care about really, who you're rooting for, how he's able to shift that in the second, you know, half of the film. You know, Leo becomes, you know, a very you know, character that although you like early on, it becomes very, yes, I won't ruin it, but some of the stuff he does is unforgivable, and the way that Refn though is able to shift that, and as well the ripple effects that has, some of the stuff that happens, that it has, and you know the final 20 minutes is so flawless, really. The outcome of this film, and you know it says something really strong. This film about, you know, cinema, and you know, all the scenes in the video store, because you know Lenny, Mads Mikkelsen's character, and you have a couple of the other ones, they're kind of they work at the video store, and all the scenes there, you know, you can see Refn's kind of his love for cinema, because you know there's some directors that have done this with films. You know, Scorsese done it with Who's That Knocking on My Door. He had some of the conversations were, you know, about films and directors and stuff, you know, westerns mainly in that, prolonged conversations, you know, about cinema in general and directors and stuff, and really the stuff the dialogue in this film, I can tell straight away how, you know, you can tell how much Refn really loves cinema and classic cinema especially. You know, all the mentions of directors and stuff is basically him tributing them, but as well the characters, like Mads Mikkelsen's character, you do believe that they are actually you know, passionate for cinema. It's not just Refn saying, read this, you know, this is who I love and this is the message. No, it's done in such a naturalistic way. Through the characters, they embody, you know, what's being said. And the way he's able to tie in, you know, cinema, you know, passion for cinema itself, with a, you know, drama and an ensemble about friendship and stuff. It was really flawless for the most part. It's an absolutely stunning film, and you know I would recommend this highly. This is probably one of his, you know, his least seen films, Refn, and you know, I think it's much better than Pusher One, and you know most of the Pusher films, and you know some of them are absolutely great. But the way I was able to connect with everything that's going on, and you know something that's unique as well. You know the way that it explores cinema itself. And just such a, you know, relatable film. So overall, you know, I think this is a great film, a truly great film, stunning. I don't think it's quite a masterpiece. You know, there is some flaws, and there's just really one scene early on that it's kind of flat, and it doesn't really go too many places. It could have been done a lot better. And just some of the editing throughout, as I've said, just a couple places really, but mainly the fades in particular. Really, the red fades don't really work at all for me too much. You know, they're just pointless. you know, it's kind of unique and stuff. He's trying to add his own, you know, stamp on the film, but really could have been done better. But overall, you know, considering everything, you know, the characters, the way they're written, and the performances to back them up, Mads Mikkelsen, stunning once again. Kim Bodnia, absolutely great. You know, especially in the second half. You know, you really feel for his character, even if you do grow to hate him. You know, in the end. You know, Zlatko, Buric as well, Corfixen, you know, all these actors, actresses, absolutely stunning in this film, and you know, all the characters are so well developed throughout the film, and you know, the way the Refn explores cinema, you know, one's love for cinema in particular, in such a naturalistic way, a comedic way, but you know, in the end, that this becomes, you know, a perfect blend of that and a, you know, human drama. Thoroughly human, and it's got unique things about it as well. Refn style. I'm gonna have to give this film, you know, Bleeder. I'm gonna have to give it a 97%. That is extremely high for me. I did not expect that. I think this is among the most underrated films I've seen. Really, you know, there's another film in that year, 1999, which I think could be the most underrated film of all time. And that's a lot more underrated than this, but still another underrated film, and another reason why 1999 is a contender for, you know, the top 5 years in film, actually, because I've seen many masterpieces from that year, and you know, it rivals 94, you know, with you know, all the films that came out then, you know, Pulp Fiction and everything. But yes, Bleeder, you know, I couldn't give any more of a higher recommendation. You know, really under the radar, this film, you know, it needs more recognition. A great way to end Refn's kind of, my watching of Refn's films, because I think, yeah, there was the last couple of films, one of them in particular, I saw that it was easily his worst film, and it was not a good film at all. I really hated it. So, you know, the way that I've able to end it on a high note, an extremely high note, you know, one of his greatest films, it is really great. I'm very happy about that, and this has made it onto my, you know, 500 favourite films list. It really has. You know, there's a couple of Refns that are there, and this is one of them. Bleeder is a stunning film, and you know, if it removed some of the flaws weren't there, and it, you know, the beginning parts were just as good as the rest of the film. Could have been a masterpiece. It really could have, and it's not far off. You know, but as it stands, truly great film, Bleeder. Refn's second film, and he had already, you know, almost perfected, you know, his style and everything, and delivered a thoroughly human drama that is full of comedy that always works. You know, it's an ode to cinema as well, as much as it is a human drama. Very unique film, and a great one. Definitely recommend it. So Bleeder, thanks for watching my review of Bleeder, and there'll be more Refn films reviewed probably next week when I get the time. But thanks for watching my review of Refn's Bleeder.